everyone remembers the Roman sword, and we talk about the Romans, how they conquer the world to brutality and force. But very few remember the road beneath it. Rome didn't conquer the world through violence alone, even though they used a lot of violence. It conquered it through velocity and a system of movement that I guess you could say was so advanced that it could crush a rebellion before it ever formed. And the same is true today. Like the United States doesn't dominate with firepower alone. It dominates because it can arrive, it can sustain, and it can strike from anywhere at speed. So to put an equivalent, Rome paved the earth, but America paved the sky. So let's go back in time here a little bit and talk about the Roman Empire and some of their infrastructure and logistics. So let's talk about the Roman road network. Over 250,000 miles of road, 50,000 paved, and it connected places like Britannia to Jerusalem and Gaul to Egypt. The legionaries or the Roman troops could march 20 to 30 miles a day and be reinforced within weeks. Rome wasn't just invading, it was knitting the world together. Then they also had a grain supply chain as well. Rome fed over 1 million people in the capital with grain imported from places like Egypt and North Africa. And this was a massive infrastructure, right? So you need granaries and ports and navies. And this is built purely for logistics. You have to think of it this way. Food equals control and movement equals survival. Rome also had something like the equivalent of an ancient FedEx. And this was called the Crassus Publicus, which was I guess you could say, Rome state-run courier system, if you will. And again, this moved intelligence and tax revenue, and again, orders faster than any of the rival civilizations. So Roman governors, they could replace armies, redirect them, taxes could be rerouted, and all this could be done by the road. So the sword won the battles, but it was a system that won peace. So let's do the comparison to America here, right? Because America, basically, it's Rome with jet engines. So you have U.S. Transcommand. That's the modern road, if you will. So U.S. Transportation Command moves, war aid and ideology across the entire globe. It does airlift and sea lift and rail and cyber logistics. It can deliver tanks, vaccines, or a SEAL team anywhere within hours. Again, U.S. Transcom is a modern equivalent of the Crassus Publicus in Rome. Then you also have global prepositioning, right? Weapons, fuel, supplies. They're already in place. And again, you have U.S. bases across something like 80 plus countries. The U.S. doesn't need to get there fast because it's already there. And of course, the U.S. has a floating infrastructure as well. Talking about the aircraft carriers and mobile bases and command ships. These are basically cities and roads that float. Rome's roads were fixed, but America's roads move with the tides, if you will. And then we have to consider the strategy of movement, right? In anything, speed is a weapon. Speed kills. Napoleon once said it. The secret of war lies in the communication. And Rome knew it, and so does the Pentagon. Rapid deployment doesn't just win wars, it prevents them from even beginning. And of course, you have your infrastructure, right? And the influence of that. China right now is mimicking Rome in the US with its Belt and Road Initiative. So it's building ports and railways and pipelines to buy influence instead of land all across, Asia and Eurasia, basically. But China's network is fixed, right? As opposed to the US system, which is mobile. So think of like a soft power deliver, right? You can give humanitarian aid, vaccine drops, disaster relief, all use, of course, transcom or military logistics. Again, a C-17 dropping MREs in Haiti, it's not just aid, it's also psychological dominance. Now, if you look at the polarity of this, right? A force without movement. So a force without movement to me is fragile. So this is Russia's problem in Ukraine. They have weapons without logistics. Their tanks, they run out of fuel, and their troops get stranded often. It's a modern military running on a legacy infrastructure. And China right now has its own growing pains, right? They have I guess you could say they have an impressive naval expansion, if you will, but no global support network yet. And aircraft carriers without forward bases are, again, swords with no hands to hold them, basically. Again, movement equals sovereignty. You can't project your will if you can't move it. So again, roads, ships, satellites, these aren't accessories to power. They are the power. You can look at some, again, historical case studies in movement. So back to Rome, right? The Second Punic War, right? Roman roads allowed troops, or troop movements, if you will, to counter Hannibal. And again, these are famous roads that exist today, like the Via Flaminia to the north, or the Via Appia to the south. Or you could go to Great Britain, and we could talk about Hadrian's Wall. Back then it was called Britannia, right? So roads like Watling Street allowed Rome to respond to tribal revolts instantly, and then they would crush them instantly as well. Again, another example of this would be the slave revolt of Spartacus, right? Crassus used Roman roads, if you will, excuse me. It was like a network of traps, and it just crushed Spartacus. The logistics, not glory, won that war. Now, we could look at other parallels here in the U.S. today in modern time. Think of like Eisenhower's interstate highway system. That was directly inspired by Roman roads. It was meant for troops and equipment movement, not just civilian travel. Or another example would be Napoleon's road doctrine. And again, it used movement and infrastructure to outmaneuver empires with much larger armies. And again, it borrowed the planning from the Roman roads or the Roman system of infrastructure. And again, the U.S. doesn't need conquests. It has supply chains, launch codes, and C-17s on standby. So they have a new age, modern roads in the air and the sea, if you will. So Rome eventually fell, but its roads endured for centuries, even till today. And the U.S. may fade one day, but its global infrastructure might survive it. Because again, the most powerful empires don't just conquer, they built the paths that everyone else is forced to follow. So again, the sword may win the battle, but in this case, the roads win history. So guys, I hope this was also informative and you learned something. And like always, remember to lift more, eat more, rest more, love more, and hate less. Thank you, guys.